All right, good afternoon, everyone. So we are from Nansen, and Nansen is basically a data analytics company that surfaces the signal from blockchain data. And I am Elizabeth. I'm a senior research analyst in the attribution team at Nansen. And what the attribution team does is that we are basically in charge of the labels that you see at Nansen. And I'm also here with Daniel Khoo, who is a research analyst at Nansen Alpha. And afterwards, I'll let him introduce himself a little bit more. Yeah, so as previously mentioned, at Nansen, we surface the signal in blockchain data. And some of you may know Nansen, and some of you may not, so just a brief introduction. Yeah, so we have dashboards, and these dashboards allow people to analyze billions of on-chain data points, millions of wallet labels, and also thousands of entities across 10 different blockchains. So this is a brief introduction. I'll talk more about Nansen later. But before that, I want to talk more about data and on-chain data. So we know that on-chain data is a proven source of alpha for crypto investors. And it may seem counterintuitive at first because one of the huge benefits of blockchains is that data is free, open, and transparent. So where is the alpha if everything is transparent for everyone to see, right? And the alpha lies in the observations that one can make from successfully navigating the complexity of on-chain data. Because if any of you have tried to work with nodes and dealing with raw on-chain data, you would know that it is immensely difficult to deal with it in its raw form. And so the alpha lies in revealing patterns that would not be apparent or obvious to other observers. So blockchain data is a massive mine of information, but we need to know what we are looking for and how to look for it. So what are the challenges with on-chain data? There are two main challenges. Analytics is impractical, and also wallets are unknown. So I believe many of you have tried to investigate an address on Blockchain Explorer, like Etherscan. And if it is an address with like 100,000 transactions, then good luck. It is very complex to analyze transaction by transaction. And if it's like maybe 1,000 transactions, perhaps we could click through and analyze the data on our own. But after a few hours, we might end up with like 50 tabs, and then we are still confused about what the relationships are between the addresses. So past a certain point, blockchain data can become too complex for our brains to process directly. So this is where we can help. At Nansen, we structure, aggregate, and enrich on-chain data across 10 different chains. And structure, so blockchain data has natural structures. If you think about it, we have contracts like ERC20s, ERC1155s, and ERC721s. So we know what we can expect, for example, from ERC20. We know that it has a name, symbol, and maybe supply decimals, right? So these can be structured in a certain way. And what more can we do? Contract standards. So there are even other contracts like multi-sig contracts, proxy contracts. They all have a certain structure to it. And we can even do more. So if we think about liquidity pools, there are what happens on liquidity pools. You can have trades. So there will be makers, takers, the amount, and also the token that is being transacted. So these are the structures that are inherent in blockchain data. And aggregation. So we try to optimize data by aggregation. And how do we aggregate? This depends on the questions that we ask from the data. So I think we are all curious people in crypto, right? We ask questions about what's happening on chain, etc. So for example, if you want to ask, what's the most popular address in Ethereum? So that's more of a qualitative question than we want to define it quantitatively. What is popular? Is it by transaction count, by volume? And then we try to define the question clearly, and then we can question the data, and then we create aggregate tables that would help us query the data efficiently. And lastly, we also enrich on-chain data, and this is what us at the attribution team do. We come up with wallet labels that give some context to the data they're looking at. Otherwise, an address is just a series of hexadecimal digits, right? So we try to think of like what are some behavioral labels Could it be a DEX trader? If an address has interacted with a liquidity pool, we can say this is a DEX trader. And that is much better than 0x ABC, for example. So, next. So with our extensive and rich data sets, we've built a playground for our research analysts and our data scientists at Nansen to do what they do best. They can perform deep dives and on-chain investigations. And they can basically play with the data. And that's what we want to encourage at Nansen. So now I will actually hand over to Daniel Khoo, a research analyst at Alpha, and he will show an example of what research analysts can do with the data we have at Nansen.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Okay, so I'm Daniel Khoo. I'm a research analyst with Nansen Alpha. So many of you might be wondering what Nansen Alpha is. So Nansen Alpha is actually the highest paying tier of Nansen subscription. So besides the on-chain tool that Elizabeth covered so much, you also get exposure to a community of crypto mavericks, and you also get research analysts who actually work for you, write reports, come up with basically data-driven or thesis-driven investment research. And lastly, we also provide you with AMAs, NFT whitelisting opportunities, and possible early investment opportunities for different projects as well. And I think many of you might have known about this stake ETH DPEG, and what actually happened was actually very different from the narrative pointed out by Crypto Twitter as well. So we see that the one-to-one ratio of Ethereum to stake ETH actually fell below its peg, and many people think that it's just because of big institutions blowing up and stuff like that. But actually, when we did a further investigation, this is what actually happened. So many of you might not have known, but actually the stake ETH DPEG actually started because of the contagion effects based on UST and Terra ecosystem. So during the UST collapse, many people actually withdrew their bonded Ether on Anchor back to Ethereum on the mainnet because of all the security risk it poses as well. And this actually, bonded ETH is actually a wrapped version of stake ETH and on Lido, and actually many of them brought back their bonded Ether, unwrapped it to stake Ether as well. And looking further, this is where you can see that the stake Ether or bonded Ether in Anchor protocol in May has fell from about 650K down all the way to near zero, and this has also affected the price of Ethereum as well. So many people have actually bridged back their bonded Ether and converted it back to stake ETH during this period of May 7 to May 16, just because bonded Ether served no purpose on the mainnet, and many of these people have also transferred this stake ETH back to Ethereum and to other coins as well because of all the contagion risk and bad market outlook as well. So from here, we can see the curve pool of stake ETH and Ethereum. And you see in May, that is when the first DPEG sort of happened. And that is because of the Terra ecosystem blow up. So not only did people unwind their leveraged positions, they also sold away their Ethereum as well, and this also caused a fall in the price of Ethereum and also caused a fall in the price of stake ETH to Ethereum, and this caused a lot of panic. And you see further down the line in June, that is when many funds who were over leveraged actually had to unwind their positions or even sell off their positions in unfavorable market conditions. Yeah, and here are some of these transactions that actually had a strong impact on the liquidity pool of Curve and also had the caused the vulnerability of the peg of stake ETH to Ethereum. And this vulnerability actually was additional risk for investors, especially expecting a turmoil of severe cascades, market downturns, further compounding the selling pressure of stake ETH to Ethereum. And the risk to reward ratio of holding this Ethereum derivative for about 5 to 10% APR might not be worth the risk of the price drawdown based on the DPEG as well. And as an investor or as a user of Nansen, what you could do if you're farming in any farms or any pools, what you could do is firstly identify who are the stakeholders of these farms and pools. So for example, the various entities that are involved. After knowing them, you find out how much of the pool do they control. Do they control 1%, 2%, 5%, and how much impact they can actually do to you based on your positions as well. And the last thing I would do is actually set smart alerts on all transactions or any transfers or any news that happens for maybe the curve pool, as well as maybe the wormhole bridge if you are actually curious about positions in bonded ether. So anytime any of these institutions make transfers, you'll be alerted based on a Nansen Smart Alert, and you could be the first one to unwind your positions and also protect yourself in any situations. Now I'll pass the time back to Liz to continue explaining what Nansen is today. Thank you.
Right, so we'll talk a bit about Nansen, the dashboards that we have in Nansen right now. So Nansen today is, with Nansen, you can discover new opportunities, and also you can perform due diligence, and you can defend your positions with the help of smart alerts. So Nansen has data that no one else has. This is what makes Nansen valuable. We have more than 120 million addresses labeled, and we also cover 80% volume coverage across all chains and all the chains that we cover. And in fact, we also have above 80% transaction coverage as well. And this is created by more than 150 contributors, the labels. So let's talk a bit about hot contracts. So hot contracts is useful because at any point in time, let's say maybe for now, in the past 15 minutes, do you actually know what is happening on Ethereum? How would you know what is the hot activity on Ethereum? If you're lucky, maybe you have a Telegram group, you have a secret alpha chat, and your friends will tell you, this is what's going on Ethereum. But if you don't, then you have Nansen. And in Nansen, you can look at hot contracts, which will tell you what is the hot activity happening on Ethereum or the other networks that we support. So typically, you see things like liquidity pools and also sometimes NFT. NFT contracts may show up on hot contracts as well. So that is one place to look if you want an overview of what is happening on Ethereum or any network right now. Another thing that we have is smart money. So you can ask yourself, what are smart money wallets trading? So smart money is a label that we have at Nansen. That sort of, it has multiple segments, and it could consist of people who have been profitable trading on decentralized exchanges. Could be funds, institutions, and also private sale investors. We have a whole bunch of different types of smart money, and we can see what they are doing. So here we can see, for example, the trades that they are making. You can also see their transactions and also their token holdings. So I believe before the price increase in Ethereum lately, actually smart money there has been some movement with smart money. So one way that you could utilize this is you could either check the dashboards regularly, or you could set up smart alerts even for smart money as well. So NFTs. So we have a very beautiful NFT Paradise dashboard. And in the top of this NFT Paradise dashboard, you will see NFT market overview. It gives you sort of like a 24-hour or even more, 7-day and 30-day overview of the NFTs, the activity of NFTs in the market right now. So you can see by volume, and also you can see market cap and the average price, sale price. And also you will get information on the floor price within the last hour, in 24 hours and 3 days. So basically when NFT was at its peak, pretty much everything was green here. 24-hour was green, the floor 3-day change was also green. So it's a very good place to see what the market looks like, and also you can see what NFTs are hot right now. And of course there is much more to NFTs dashboards that I won't show, but you can see that there are tabs there. We have NFT smart money for NFTs as well. And also, particularly, I would like to talk a bit about Mint Master, which is also very interesting. Basically, it's the hot mints that are happening right now for NFTs. There's also like a FOMO level that will tell you how hot this mint is. And also, in addition to NFT Paradise, we also have NFT God mode, where you can click. So from NFT Paradise, you could click through to a specific collection. And over here, you also get an overview of the NFT collection as well. You see things like minimum price, maximum price, and the average price in the last 24 hours. Also floor price, volume, transactions. So it gives you a very good overview of the activity for this particular collection. Also quite interesting, we have a scatter plot that I may be blocking of individual transactions here. And so you can see, for example, there's like a very high dot here, like that's probably a very big sale, like maybe something rare was sold. We also see smart money buying this collection. So the yellow dots indicate that, yeah, there was a smart NFT buyer. So when you see like lots of yellow dots, that's like a good indication, I would say. NFA though, but, and then there's also a chart for transactions and buyers. Okay, and lastly, another thing that you can do to defend your positions as well, these are smart alerts. So smart alerts, you can follow specific addresses, or you can follow certain labels, and also smart money as well. And you can set it up for Discord or Telegram, and anytime there's any activity, you can set filters as well, like cross a certain threshold, etc. Anytime there's any sort of activity, you will get a notification on your phone. So particularly if you are in a liquidity pool, you have a large position, you might want to know who else is having a large position in this pool. And maybe it might make sense to set up smart alerts for these people to see when are they doing things that could affect you. So yeah. Lastly, at Nansen, we want to surface a signal and also create the winners in the future of finance. So we believe in enabling the pioneers of crypto. Like if you're here, we want to help you to succeed, and that's our mission at Nansen. Thank you.
Any question?
Hi, thanks for the presentation. One question I have is how real-time is Nansen, and how do you get it from, let's say, the impractical format into the easy-to-use format?
Sorry, what's the last part of your question? How?
Like you mentioned, like on-chain data is impractical in one of the beginning slides.
Yeah.
How do you get it from a impractical mode
Yes.
into a easy-to-use analytics mode?
We have some ways of doing things. So how real-time is Nansen? We do have things like streamers that stream. They are just reading block by block. So some things are very updated. Like hot contracts, mints, these are important because they need to be as live as possible, because if they're happening now, you need to know now. And some things that are based on like aggregations, for example, then those might be take a bit more time. But in general, actually, I would say our data is actually live. We have ways to work around it in our blockchains team that have done excellent work. It's actually pretty much live. It might be cached in the front end, like maybe for a few minutes, but beyond that, it's pretty much live, yeah. I hope that answers your question. Okay, good. Anybody else? Okay.
Thank you. So I'm a bit interested in how you actually generate all the labels for your all the addresses, and also would you consider to make it open to the public for people to label if they see interesting behavior on chain, and then we do the label? Also, would you consider to open up APIs for developers to get all these data? Because I totally see they can be used for, let's say, DID purpose, or let's say DeFi diligence. So I think these will be super interesting.
Yeah, thank you. Very good questions. So how do we do the labels? Yes, so I would say at attribution, we have two main components. One is the manual component, and one is the automatic component. So I personally work on the more automatic section of attribution. Manual would be for example, high-profile addresses, high balances. These require a bit more finesse, more investigation. But manual is always most important because someone has looked at it. And the automatic component, so we generate behavioral labels. If you use Nansen, you know we have things like elite DEX trader. This is a behavior. We have things like sandwich attack victim or certain other labels. So we have NFT collector. So that's also like a certain behavior. So these, we write it using like heuristics algorithms. So it's through code. We write these labels and then we propagate them throughout the the network. And also, let me try and recall the question. I think you said about an API, whether we will do something for. So we do have something not really for developers though. We have Nansen Query, which is we aim it at more of like for businesses, institutions, but we understand we have a valuable internal data set. It is like our aggregate tables, they are very, like I know that they are very good. Blockchain's team has done fantastic job with the tables that we have. So Nansen Query will allow people to directly query our tables. So it's not just an API, it's beyond an API. Like you can actually query the tables. It's not just putting in some parameters and yeah, so we have that. But for developers, that's a good question. I don't know, but we'll consider that feedback. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
So obviously you've organized the transactions of the blockchain, but what about the state? Do you have like a data set of the state? For example, if I want to query what the state of the wallet was like 2 weeks ago at 5 a.m., how much Ethereum was in this wallet?
I think it is possible, but not optimized. Like I think it's theoretically possible given our the data that can we? I'm not sure.
Like you can calculate it. That's what I'm doing now, but I would like to have a data set where I could just query it straight off.
Yeah, so I think with Nansen Query, it's definitely possible to get sort of like more historical data, and that is something that mainly we don't really have for the retail side yet, but it's mostly for institutional customers. Yeah.
But yeah, I would say we don't have a need for it yet. Yeah, so that's why we don't build something like it at the moment. We have things like snapshots, but like if you want specifically at 5 a.m. for this specific wallet, yeah, I don't think we have something. The more detailed something is, the less optimized it will be. Because with certain optimization, like if you take a snapshot of a day, 1 day snapshot, that is quicker to query, but of course you lose some granularity in the data. So yeah, I would say there is some give and take. We manage the balance between like the precision and also the efficiency of the data. So I would say state might be a bit difficult. We can construct it, we can do something, but it would not be efficient, yeah. Any questions? All right. Okay, we're good then. Thank you.